Welcome, everyone. My name is Donna Ozier. I'm the director of the Macular Degeneration Association, and I'm also a Florida licensed optician. Today, we would like to thank Regeneron, Novartis, and Notel Vision for their support of our virtual programs. The Macular Degeneration Association was founded in 2007 by our chairman of the board, Lawrence Hofheimer. He watched his mom lose her vision due to macular degeneration, and at the time there was nothing that could be done. There were no treatments. This is near and dear to his heart, and he actually himself has wet macular degeneration, and he has been receiving the injections. On the bottom of your screen, you'll see the Q&A button. You can type in your questions there, and you can type them in throughout the program anytime. The doctors will answer your question. At the end of the program, there is a survey that pops up on the screen. Please take a few moments and fill it out. It's about 2 minutes tops, if that. And you will be able to find more of these programs on our website, which is www.macularhope.org. Please go in, look over the programs, and register for as many as you would like. Today, we'd like to introduce our speakers. We have Ryan Parker. He's an optometrist. He's the Director of Professional Development, Essilor Luxottica. Dr. Parker graduated from the Oklahoma College of Optometry in Northeastern State University in Tallulah, Oklahoma, and I probably said that wrong, in 2004. While in school, he was honored to be elected as the president of the American Optometric Student Association and enjoyed time serving in the National Student Association. He opened Ardmore Premier Eye Care in 2007. In 2018, he joined Essilor full-time as the Director of Professional Development. Dr. Parker has been featured in many articles and television interviews talking about various programs and technologies that Essilor Luxottica utilizes to achieve its mission of helping people see more, be more, and live life to its fullest. He has lectured extensively on practice management, spectacle lenses technology, and myopia management to numerous eye care professionals. Our second speaker is Pete Hanlon. He's the Vice President Professional Services at Essilor of America. Pete Hanlon began his career in the ophthalmic industry in 1989. Early in his career, he managed private optometric practices in Pennsylvania and Florida. In 2002, he joined Essilor of America, where he is currently Vice President of Professional Services and Ophthalmic Operations. Pete serves as an industry representative on the ANSI Z80 Standards Committee and has been a CE speaker for over 20 years. A graduate of Lee University, Pete is designated as the Master Optician by the American Board of Opticianry. He resides in Hickory Creek, Texas, with his wife Debbie and grandson at Aiden. So now I'd like to present the program.
Donna, thank you so much for that. As we were talking, I had no idea you were licensed in Florida as an optician, so you definitely know your stuff inside and out. It's great to be here with everyone. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're coming to us from. Both Pete and I are based in the Dallas, Texas area, so it's a little bit before lunch our time. What we thought we would do today is a little different maybe than if you've been on these before. Pete and I lecture extensively all the time and are sick of PowerPoint decks. So we don't want to give you one of those today. We both have a passion for blue light. Both of us have been in clinical practice and have seen macular degeneration patients. I know I've had many personally that have affected my career throughout. And, you know, we lecture all over to our colleagues about blue light, what can be done from a spectacle lens perspective on macular degeneration. And so we thought today we would just kind of share some things that hit home for us. And then really this is going to be a Q&A. And we want it to be kind of a fireside chat. on after we give you some information that we know. This is your chance to ask us any question that you want to. And if we don't know the answer, I promise we won't make anything up. We'll actually find it out for you, get back to you. So this is going to be kind of lighthearted today. There's no major timeline. We're not going to do an hour presentation, then Q&A. We'll probably talk for, I don't know, 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes, and then open it up for some questions. So Pete, I'm going to let you start if that's cool with you, and then we'll go from there.
Sure thing. So thanks, Dr. Parker. So my name's Pete. I'm your neighborhood friendly optician. And so I deal in the world of glasses. And one of the things that we'll point out right from the start is, well, personally, my mom, the last time she went to the ophthalmologist, I always talked to her after exam. And I said, so what did the ophthalmologist say? And she said, well, he just, he said I have dry eye, and he said I have the beginnings of something called macular degradation. And I said, I think he might have said degeneration. And she said, yes. Well, what did he say about that? Well, he didn't really say much about it. So let's talk about that. The first thing to understand, and as many optometrists will point out, blue light, which you primarily get from the sun, is not the primary cause of macular degeneration. Macular degeneration is a very, as I'm sure most of you are probably already aware, it's a very genetic based issue that you probably inherited. The other thing that can trigger macular degeneration, and I'm probably stealing some of Dr. Parker's thunder because he knows this far better than I do, is if you tend to smoke. Well, smoking increases oxidation, and as we'll probably talk about a little bit later, oxidation is one of the things that encourages macular degeneration to form. So if you smoke, stop smoking. Your diet, that's another thing that has to do with how much oxidation occurs in your body, and macular degeneration is an oxidative type of issue. So the last thing that we have on the list that can further along macular degeneration is blue light. So what role does blue light play in AMD? It's kind of, I like to create analogies, and my analogy is that blue light is a lot like sugar. Sugar doesn't cause diabetes. Just because you eat sugar doesn't mean you're going to become diabetic. However, if you have a family history of diabetes, if your body is prone to getting diabetes, eating a ton of sugar constantly for years and years and years could push it over the edge and make you, in fact, have symptoms of diabetes. So what blue light does is it gets in the retina, and there's a very specific wavelength of light. And so that's the first thing I really want to key in on is whenever we talk about blue light, we're not just talking about every color of blue. So when you go outside, if I look outside right now here in Dallas, it's a nice sunny day. The sky has that nice turquoise kind of light blue. That color doesn't damage your eyes. It doesn't cause oxidation. In fact, it helps you know that it's daytime. It tells your body to stay awake. It's a good thing. You need to see that color, the sky blue color. The color of light that can damage your eyes is actually one that you don't see by itself very often. It's a blue-violet kind of color. Specifically, it has a wavelength of 435 nanometers. What the heck is that? Well, it's blue-violet. And the thing about that particular color is when it hits your retina, it can cause different things that are in your retina to oxidize and turn into some substances that, well, they do bad things in the retina. And actually, I think at this particular point, before I talk about how glasses can help, I'm going to kick it back over to Dr. Parker and let him describe the oxidative effects that occur in the retina with that blue-violet light.
Sure, Pete. And what I want you to think about here, what Pete said is there's been a lot of, with COVID-19 and blue light and computers and all that stuff, there's been a whole big conversation on blue light. And Pete hit something that's very, very important. The sun is the single biggest emitter of damaging blue light. It's not the devices indoors. And I kind of get bent out of shape when people start talking about, oh, the computers and smartphones. Yeah, you do get exposure from this damaging wavelength, but it's in much smaller amounts. But think about light. Light's beneficial to us, but not all light is good light. The difference with people that have macular degeneration is if your body, from your genetics, from mom and dad, if you have the army of antioxidants, they can get rid of that stuff. So everyone that goes outside that gets exposed to blue light, or even indoors to a certain extent, this oxidation is happening. The light's coming in, the toxic light will cause damage in the back of my retina. But if I have good antioxidant defenses, it neutralizes those free radicals and then it gets taken away. So my body does a good job in dealing with that. With people that have age-related macular degeneration or macular degeneration, something has caused a breakdown in that natural defense mechanism. And all of a sudden, these free radicals build up and cause oxidation in the back part of the eye. It's very, very similar to skin cancer in the fact that you can have people that go outside that don't ever put sunscreen on, and they live their whole life without even a mole or freckle. And you wonder, how in God's name is that possible? How is that fair? Because they have great natural defense mechanisms. Same thing with macular degeneration. You can have people that do the exact same thing, but if their internal army, as I like to describe it, is starting to fail over time, then the toxic effects can build up. So from a cellular level, what happened, you have all these healthy cells, and there's a whole feedback loop mechanism that goes that we're not going to go into because I want everyone to stay awake on this call. But what people don't understand, when light excites the retina, the cell changes. And the cell does one thing, and then the cell actually is dead, and then it gets replaced by a fresh one in its place. And people forget that, and that happens millions of times every day. And that process goes on usually unaffected until these oxidative species start to build up. And then what happens is that cell can no longer be replaced, and then you start to get something called drusen, which is an accumulation of junk in the back part of the eye that clinically we can see, and that's typically the first sign of macular degeneration. And sometimes it's very frustrating for you as a patient because, just like Pete's mom, the doctor will go in and talk about big words and say, well, you may or may not. I'm like, what am I paying you money for? How's this you may or may not? Because it truly is a judgment call for a while. You start to see early signs of retinal changes, and then that conversation starts to transpire. But just think about it. You're exposed to good light and bad light every single day you walk outside. That does not mean go outside, but it means go outside and think about some things. But it's not just the light. It's so many other factors that go into that. But if the bad light starts to create some damage and your body can't deal with it, that's when we start to have these conversations about how can we supplement it. And there's two ways to supplement it. One, from a diet and nutritional standpoint, and all you're doing there is trying to jack up your antioxidants because you yourself are not producing enough of them anymore. That's one side of it that we'll get into. And the other side is, can we limit the amount of toxic light? Now, here's the funny thing. When I was in optometry school, and I paid pretty good money for my degree, and I remember my retinal specialist coming in and saying, macular degeneration is due to ultraviolet radiation. And that's what we went on for a number of years, and come to find out with the studies that are out now, that's not true, because we know that ultraviolet radiation does not get to the back part of the eye in high enough quantities to cause the damage. What does is the high energy blue light that Pete was referring to. But still, it's an okay thing that they were wrong, because when we protected ourselves from ultraviolet radiation outside, we just so happened to protect ourselves from blue light as well. But I do want you to understand, it's actually not ultraviolet radiation. It's blue light that causes the damage in the back part of your eye, but the sun's the single biggest emitter. So that's why there's some confusion there. So Pete, I'm going to throw it back to you and let you start talking a little bit from a spectacle perspective.
Sure thing. So the first thing I'm going to do is just back the boat up here for a second, because as I was just listening to ourselves talk, I'm thinking we're throwing the word oxidation out there and antioxidants and all that sort of stuff. And we talk about blue light all the time, so we're pretty familiar with that. But some people may not be familiar with what oxidation is. So I can give you a really simple demonstration of oxidation. If you have an apple and it's sitting on your counter, that apple will probably stay pretty fresh for a long time unless you cut the apple in half and you leave it on the counter. And then if you come back in a day or two, you're going to find that that apple looks very brown and it's turned into mush. That's oxidation. So living things obviously need oxygen to survive. But what we didn't learn in elementary school is that oxygen is actually a pretty nasty element. because oxygen, when it interacts with living cells, tends to break down the cellular walls. That's why the body tries to protect you against oxygen. So when you hear the term antioxidant, it's basically saying that when your cell is using oxygen, your body tries to use the oxygen without letting the oxygen damage the cells. Now, as Dr. Parker mentioned, oxygen can damage your retina. So when you see something, your retinal cells, and there's like 260 million receptors back in your retina, they use tons and tons and tons of oxygen. So, I mean, they burn through a lot of oxygen, which is why they have the blood supply right there in your retina. A quarter of the blood in your body every hour flows through your retinas. That's how much blood they just need to consume that oxygen. So when you're younger, as Dr. Parker mentioned, you have very good defenses. Your body's great at using oxygen without letting it harm your cells. And so, you know, when you're younger, you can have all this exposure to oxygen, but it doesn't really hurt you. As you get older, those processes tend to break down, and now your cells still need the oxygen, but doggone it, those oxygen molecules start to destroy the cells, and you end up with a buildup of some toxic substances in the retina that we'll talk about later. Now, how we can help, or how eyeglasses specifically can help you reduce that amount of oxidation is, as we mentioned, there's a very specific color of light, blue-violet light, that causes oxidation to occur. So not every color causes oxidation. You can see all the red light that you want. You can look at green light. You can look at yellow light. Any color of the rainbow you particularly like, you can surround yourself with it, and it will not cause oxidation in your retina. But blue-violet light of 435 nanometers, that causes oxidation to occur. So what we want to do with a pair of eyeglasses is, especially if you're prone to having the damaging effects of oxidation and macular degeneration, we want to limit the amount of 435 nanometer blue-violet light. Now, fortunately, that is super simple to do. The way you do it is you wear these when you go outside. Okay, so when you go outside, the sun emits far more illumination than you need to see clearly. I mean, you could cut the illumination on a sunny day by 50 times, and you would still have enough light to function just fine. All that extra light that's being produced by the sun can actually damage your eyes. And particularly if your retina is prone to having oxidation, the sun contains a ton of that blue-violet light. You don't see it, you tend to see the blue turquoise color, but right there along with it, you've got tons of that blue-violet light that's being emitted by the sun. So what you want to do is when you go outside, and this applies to anybody, but particularly someone with a retinal issue like macular degeneration or retinitis pigmentosa or anything else, you want to be wearing something that greatly reduces the illuminance of the sun. Now, some people or some opticians will start to really geek out on exactly what color of lenses you need to have. You know what? It really doesn't matter that much. They just need to be dark, okay? When you have a dark, especially a dark gray lens, it's going to reduce the amount of illumination in every single color that you see. And so when you wear, like if I were to wear these Ray-Ban spectacles that are, these are actually prescription. So if I were to wear these outside, they are going to reduce my exposure to blue-violet light by about 95%. All right. Now I get it that a lot of people will say, yeah, well, I only want to have one pair of glasses. Or if you're like myself, I have over 60 pairs of prescription glasses because I'm in the optical business. So yeah, and I just can't help myself. I keep buying new glasses. I have at least 6 pairs of prescription sunglasses. And yet, if I go to the office and I'm walking to lunch to my vehicle, I can't count how many times I have walked across our parking lot and I don't have any of my 6 pairs of prescription sunglasses with me because they're either laying on my desk, or they're at home, or they're in the car where they shouldn't be because it gets way too hot in the inside of a car for glasses. I just don't have them with me. And so what do you do if you just want to have one pair of glasses? Well, in that case, the single lens that will protect you the most from harmful blue light is called a photochromic lens. Now, the biggest name in that particular business, which Dr. Parker's wearing, is Transitions. You've probably seen Transitions commercials. Yes, just as a disclaimer, Essilor owns Transitions. There are other companies that have other photochromic lenses, and it really doesn't matter which one you use. Photochromic lenses, the thing that you'll remember about them is when you go outside, they automatically start to get dark. Photochromic lenses do a great job at blocking harmful blue light. And the really cool thing about them is even when they're clear, even when you're inside and they appear to be clear, like my lenses appear right now and Dr. Parker's lenses look clear, they are still blocking 20% of harmful blue light. And the last thing I'm going to mention before I kick it back over to Dr. Parker is that Transitions does make one very unique product. And that particular product is called Transitions Extra Active. It's a lens that has just a tiny bit of tint indoors, but when you go outside, it gets super, super dark. And that lens will reduce your exposure to harmful blue light, even when you're inside. If you're using your cell phone, which as Dr. Parker said, and I completely agree, yes, this puts out some harmful blue light, but it doesn't put off that much, not much at all. In fact, let me quantify this for you because this is one of my soapboxes.
I love this part.
So if you have AMD, you may or may not be a TikTok fan. Ask your grandkid or your kid what TikTok is, and then don't download it to your phone because it's tiny little short videos that people make that are either funny or cute or stupid. And you'll find that they're very addictive. So let's say my son looks at his cell phone for 2 hours looking at TikToks. If he goes outside on a day that's just like today, it's not overly sunny, but it's partly sunny. In 1 minute, he will have more exposure to harmful blue light from the sun than he got in over 2 hours of using his smartphone. So that if you have to worry about something, worry about the sun. But the cool thing about Transitions Extra Active is even when you're indoors, that little tiny bit of tint blocks 35% of harmful blue light. And when you go outside, it will block up to 97% of harmful blue light. There is no single lens on the market that I'm aware of that will protect your eyes against harmful blue light more than a Transitions Extra Active. To go back to the diabetes analogy, it would be like cutting almost all sugar out of your diet. So it's a very good thing to do if you've been told or if you've already been diagnosed as having a little bit of retinal issues or even advanced macular degeneration. So back over to you, Dr. Parker.
Thanks, Pete. I'm going to give you a little break now because you nailed it here. We got some questions I'm going to deal with, but I really want to take you back to my clinical setting and how we had that conversation. Pete just gave a great overview of lenses. And like I said, you know, we're dealing, it's a how do we do the whole thing together? We'll talk about diet and exercise or diet and nutraceuticals here in just a minute, but let's talk about lenses. When we're dealing with blue light and blue light's coming through the lens, remember, you're not going to get rid of all of it because there's still stuff that comes in around, but what can we do to stop the amount from getting in? And the lenses can either filter, absorb the light. So like you can think about the light going through here and there's certain pigment molecules in here that absorb some of the blue light, or we can reflect it back away from the lens as well. And that's something called an anti-reflective technology. And in my practice, here's what I did with the conversation. So I had patients that were at no risk whatsoever, little bit of risk, medium risk, or oh my gosh risk, okay? And then so we had a different conversation for each of those people. And I'm going to try to talk through these questions here real quick and then use those analogies. And we're actually, Susan, you were the first to ask a question, but it's the longest answer. So if some of these are quicker, I will get to yours, I promise. I love your question because this is a problem that we deal with all the time, but we'll get to that in a little bit. We'll actually start here at the bottom. It says, my mom's optician suggested a tint for my mom. She has macular and then is it good? Here's the thing, tint, yeah, that's kind of that's an older way to do things. They're probably talking about either a blue tint or, excuse me, a yellow tint that's going to filter out some blue light, or there's a lot of times patients with macular degeneration have an overabundance of light. So putting a tint on there will help reduce the overall amount of light. But back to what Pete said, and what I would use in my practice, because it does so much more, is that Transitions Extra Active, because it does provide a light tint indoors that isn't extremely noticeable, but it protects you from blue light indoors. But what we forget about is what Pete said. Every patient with macular degeneration goes outside at some point in time in their life. And I can guarantee you those patients will not have their sunglasses with them all the time. And that's where Transitions is amazing. Love it or hate it. And I don't want you to repeat this. Years ago, I was not the biggest fan of this product. But now that I work for Essilor and we do, that is one of our products, but any photochromic, because they didn't work as well. With the newer generation, they work amazingly well. So what I would do for that last about mom's optician, I would, if I were going to do a tint, my practice, I would do Extra Active because it does more than just a tint does. Another question is, what can I do to protect my eyes? I use a computer. Okay, let's see. There we go. We just changed another question. I use a computer, phone, watch TV. Once again, same thing. Depending on your risk, the Transitions lens, regular Transitions does a really good job indoors. It blocks 20%, so that's going to protect you from your TV and your computer. But if you want to take it to the next level, that Extra Active provides 35% indoor protection. So depending on where your risk is at. And once again, the reason I like photochromic lenses is it's not a one-trick pony. There are things that you can get, that filters that can be put in the lens that do the same thing. But remember, when you go outside, they don't adapt to the amount of blue light. And so is transition lenses better than sunglasses for people with macular degeneration? Technically, kind of. And here's why. Pete loves that answer. Technically, sunglasses will block a little bit more of the blue light when you're outdoors if they're good quality lenses, polarized and everything. But here's the thing, if you have them with you all the time and promise me you'll put them on every time, yes. But we all know in reality that doesn't occur. So I think that's a great question, but it really depends on how you wear your sunglasses and that. I do like the fact that Transitions will block you. It's always on protection. When you're indoors, it'll block. Sunglasses will too, but you can't wear sunglasses indoors. The other thing that's really important here is there are days that you will go outside where it's overcast. You would be shocked by the amount of blue light that still is going to penetrate the front part of your eye and get to the back part of your eye when the sun's not out there. And you probably don't want to wear sunglasses. And in fact, a lot of patients with macular degeneration that's a little bit more advanced actually need more light than someone that doesn't. So there are a certain point in time where dark sunglasses can be very, very protective, but also can limit the amount of light, which can affect your overall vision. I'm a big proponent here of, and I keep saying Transitions, and I'm sorry, that's a brand, but dark adapting lenses really are a workhorse here. Let's see. I keep hearing about blue light. How can I get this in my glasses? I know you're hearing a lot about that. It's just popped up all over. Like we've talked about, Transitions is a great way to do that. There are anti-reflective lenses that every company has that reflect the blue light. Once again, though, Pete hit the nail on the head here. It's not just reflecting all blue light. It's that certain wavelength. So asking your eye care provider, hey, tell me about this lens, or asking your trained optician, does this block the bad and let the good in? Because not all blue light is bad. So just saying we're going to block all blue light, that's not it. There's a certain band of light that causes the damage. So yeah, you keep hearing about blue light. How do you get it? Talk to your eye care provider, ask those questions. If you get Transitions, done. It's going to block the blue light that you need. If you don't like Transitions, there are other products that you can use. And I think that's a good way to get that in there. Be careful. Here's the thing, though. I will tell you, in this realm, you get what you pay for. And there's no other nice way to say that. There is very inexpensive stuff that is available online that has no science behind it. And it's technically a blue light filter, but you don't know if it blocks exactly what you want it to block and let through what you want it to let through. Brands are important here, But if you're going to a reputable eye care provider, which I know all of you are, if you're in this fight with macular degeneration, just asking the right questions. Another one here, my mom has macular degeneration, light sensitive. Which lenses should I get for her? Once again, I would go, I'm going to sound like a broken record here. I would do Transitions Extra Active, because that product right there is going to help the most with light sensitivity in an indoor and outdoor setting. And it's great because it's just one pair of glasses will do everything. Which lenses give you the best vision? That's a broad but a great question. Once again, getting what you pay for here, doing something with Transitions, photochromic lenses. You can, and here's the other thing too that Pete and I really haven't talked about yet. It does get a little confusing. You can start stacking some products on there. So you can use a photochromic lens and like an extra active, and then you can put an anti-reflective lens on there that reflects blue light away. Our product in the Essilor land is called Crystalline Preventia. Pete, remind me what, there's another one, what is Hoya's? I can't think of it right now.
EX3 Recharge.
Recharge. There's brands and manufacturers that do that, and those products can be stacked together, and it's not an additive effect. So 1 + 1 does not equal 2 when we start talking about blue light, but it's cumulative effect. So 1 + 1 equals maybe 1.7, that type thing.
Can I interject for just a second?
Yes. Yep. We've
Okay,
answered a bunch of them, so go ahead.
So yeah, when I saw the question about, my mother has macular degeneration, what should I do? As I've already mentioned, my mom's been diagnosed as having the beginnings of macular degeneration. So I lecture on blue light, and I have access to every single ophthalmic product. What glasses are my mom wearing? She is wearing a Transitions Extra Active Gray with a regular anti-reflective. It's a Crizal, which again, that's a particular AR that we make, but any AR will do the job. And so why does she have Transitions Extra Active? Because we tried the route of making my mom clear glasses and sunglasses. And whenever I would grill her, every time I would talk to her, she would admit that, yeah, I almost always forget my sunglasses. I either leave them in the house, or I go somewhere and leave them at church, or I leave them all over the place. So now she wears Transitions Extra Active. Every single time she goes outside, I like to say, you may forget to protect your eyes, but Transitions lenses will remember to protect your eyes. So they get dark automatically. The reason for the AR is because my mom happens to be she just turned 79 years old, and she still drives. And this is something that you should know. So I have a 26-year-old son. My mom is 79. My mom's retinas, just because of her eyes, and this is a normal aging process, they are receiving about 1/3 of the light that my son's eyes get. And the reason is because things happen with your lens that is inside your eye. It gets darker. You just get less light to your retina. So you want to get as much light when you're driving at night to your retina as you can, because as you age, you become less sensitive to light. And so that anti-reflective coating allows her to not get the reflections, not get the glare, so that she is as safe as possible when she's driving her car. Now, as far as which lenses give you the best vision, if you have macular degeneration, you're probably over the age of 45. Which means you probably have something called presbyopia. That just means that even if you wore glasses your whole life to see far away, you could see up close when you were younger, and then all of a sudden you lose the ability to see up close. Progressive lenses do a great job. My mom wears Verilux, which again is the progressive that we make, and she has Verilux X Design lenses. They work great for her. Now, here's something I would point out as an optician. If your macular degeneration begins to progress, the quality of the image that you see is going to go down a little bit. Progressive lenses for someone with advanced macular degeneration may not be the best answer. You might want to get a pair of lenses that are just for reading. And the reason is that those will magnify things a little, which makes the print a little bit bigger. And you get the complete lens to look through. So if any part of the image that you're seeing is going to help you read, those readers, okay, which you should get in your very specific prescription. Don't go to Walgreens and just get something off the shelf, get something made just to your near vision prescription. So my mom wears Transitions Extra Active with an AR coating or no glare coating to help her drive at night, and she wears progressive lenses, and those work very, very well for her. So anyway, back to you, Dr. Parker.
Perfect. Yeah, so Susan, you came out of the gates with a great question. We're finally going to get to it. Hopefully, hopefully you're still tuned in, and I didn't forget you, because here's what always happens when we talk about this, and I love it. I love it. We spend so much time talking about spectacle lenses, and both Pete and I are spectacle lens geeks, and we love this stuff. But it's only a little tiny piece of the battle, ladies and gentlemen. It's something you need to do. But very similar to like I talk about wearing sunscreen outside if you're prone to skin cancer. Same concept there, though. It's oxidative stress causes issues. And so that's why dermatologists say, you know, put the sunscreen on. So be protected outside, whether it's polarized sunglasses, whether it's, you know, photochromic lenses or blue light blocking lenses indoors. But then Susan asked a great question about what a retinal specialist said. And this is interesting. Retinal specialist says to eat a vegan diet, eliminate all animal, poultry, fish, and dairy products, and stop smoking too. I'm sure they said, and like, wow, that's no fun. But here's the mindset here. Anything that you put in your body that would cause an oxidative type reaction, or something that your body goes, that's foreign, I've got to go deal with that. And the way your body deals with that is it puts all your blood cells and it focuses oxygen on something and tries to deal with that. And when there's chemical reactions that occur, there's always oxidative stress. And what they're trying to do is eliminate the oxidative stress that your body goes through. So the first thing here, Susan, is I would take a deep breath and say, I don't think I would jump all the way in yet, although I would never argue with a retinal specialist, but sometimes they don't think about the whole picture. They're just focused on the retina, and they're not thinking about all the things that you can do besides dealing with retinal health. What they're really saying here is no one in the free world can eat enough antioxidants to fight this battle. It's just not possible unless you have a truckload of leafy green kale that gets delivered to your front porch every day and you just chomp on that. You need to take some type of vitamin supplementation. That was a must in my practice. We've had this conversation. Many of you have probably heard of ARADS 1 and ARADS 2. And there's so many other components out there. There's lutein, there's zeaxanthin, stuff keeps coming out all the time. And I know it gets really confusing, but the bottom line is be taking something. And the research right now is around an AREDS 2 formulation. That's AREDS 2 formulation. That's the only science that I've seen that is really justifiable. There's many other things that are out there. The good news right now is all the stuff that's out there that's not been proven to cause any harm that you're taking it. So if you are taking it and it proves not effective, the only thing that you've lightened is probably your pocketbook just a little bit. This eliminate all animal, poultry, fish, and dairy products. I can see where they're coming from. Here's my 2 cents on it. Unfortunately, I would eliminate fatty red meat. That's one of the biggest culprits of causing oxidative damage in our bodies. Our body really is not supposed to deal with fatty red meat in the way that we cook it in a Western diet, because let's face it, we make it even more unhealthy than it already is. And your body has to deal with that. Poultry, I don't see the connection there unless we're talking about hormone raised poultry. So I would still eat lean poultry. I would look for organic here. And trust me, I'm not one of those type of people. I grew up in Kansas. But if we're dealing with, you don't want to eat chicken that has had a diet of crazy antibiotics, because you're getting those antibiotics as well. And your body does not know how to deal with those. Fish, the only thing I can think of there is mercury. I haven't seen any studies that link the two. Fish is super healthy. When we look at diets that don't have high rates of macular degeneration, they're eating a lot of fish and chicken, or a Mediterranean diet. That's the other really nice one. Mediterranean diet, which is full of good fats, olive oil, avocados, MCT oil. These are great things for your body. Dairy products, growing up in the 80s like I did, we drank gallons upon gallons of milk, and we're finding out now that that may not be the best thing to do for our overall health later in life. It's great for building, strong bones and calcium and vitamin D, but there's also a lot of other things in milk that can be a detriment. So for me on that one, I would take that and go take your eye vitamins, cut back on your red meat, eat lean poultry, organic poultry, eat fish. I would definitely eat fish. And I would get rid of the dairy products there because there's just no justification for high levels of high dairy in a diet as an adult. Now, that's some things that you can do with a diet. I'm a big believer of healthy fats. Healthy fats are good. Eat avocados if you like them. Look for products that have something called MCT oil in them. It's a good fat, and it does all kinds of great things for your body. If you're a coffee fan, there's something out there called Super Coffee, which I've gotten Pete hooked on, I think. And it has MCT oil in it, a nice little caffeine boost in the morning. Clean, really nice coffee. It's got some MCT oil. And for me personally, I'm going to share this with you. You know, I always have to battle high cholesterol and those type of things. And I finally listened to what I've been telling my patients and did it. And it makes a big difference when you're doing these type of things. So diet's important. Diet's big. Stop smoking, take your vitamins, clean your diet up. But here's the thing, folks, and I don't want to sell you a bill of goods here, because with macular degeneration, I want you to think prevention and not reversal. And here's the thing, like the macular degeneration, and I was very upfront with my patients about this. Once we had this conversation, it's like a train leaving the station. The train's going to leave the station, and when the train gets to the end station, that's vision loss. All right. So my job is to divert that train and make it really challenging for that train to get there. And we got to do everything together to put the brakes on, put some curves in the track. When we're dealing with this and we're talking about diet and blue light lenses and those type of things, I don't want you to think we can reverse the clock here. It's all about prevention. So please understand that. But there's so many great things that can be done when we start talking about prevention. Now, it's a little different conversation when you cross over to the wet and we start talking about the ophthalmologist and injections. There's some really cool things in there. And there actually is some reversal that occurs. But the things that Pete and I are talking about are more from a preventive measure. Let me hit a couple of these real fast, Pete, and I'm gonna let you chime back in. We've talked about anti-reflected. Yes, they're great for people with vision loss. We've talked about the lenses that we should get. Visual aids, that is a great question. Not a lot of optometrists out there deal with vision aids. It's a specialty, so you need to ask your provider about a low vision specialist. Low vision specialists have a ton of new, amazing things that can be utilized to maximize reduction in vision, because the goal is when your macula is not healthy, parts of it aren't functional anymore. But low vision aids can maximize the area that you can see with magnification, and you can really do some amazing things. So I think that's something that should be in a conversation once we get there, is a low vision specialist. Someone out there likes contacts. We like contacts too. I'm glad, and this is awesome. Pete, you're gonna love this. I have ordered AccuView with transitions, a virtual high five right there. So actually you don't need photochromic lenses, because your AccuView with transitions do the exact same thing. So very nice. Now, wear those contacts outdoors all the time. If you don't, get yourself a pair of sunglasses or transition lenses. All right, Pete, got anything to add right now? I'm looking at some more questions.
Yeah, I'm going to go a little bit. I like to go down rabbit holes sometimes. So yeah, the other thing I would just confirm what Dr. Parker was saying is, again, I asked my mom, what did your doctor say about your diet? The doctor said nothing. I've written some nasty notes to this ophthalmologist because I'm like, hey, you need to be a little bit more proactive with your care. But she takes a lutein and zeaxanthin supplement, and she eats as many antioxidants as you can. By the way, oxidation occurs throughout your entire body. If you have age spots on your skin, that's oxidation. And it's actually very similar to the oxidation that's occurring in your retina, because age spots are nothing more than lipofuscin. Lipofuscin occurs anytime your body is incapable of breaking down a cell and just getting rid of it. So in other words, when your cells in your body die, the idea is usually that your body just consumes that cell and gets rid of it. But as we age, it gets harder and harder for the body to break down old cells that are just no longer useful. And so it just stores them. It converts them into something called lipofuscin, and it stores them in your skin in the form of age spots. In your retina, the thing that's causing the problem is, as Dr. Parker mentioned, every time you see something, you've probably in 5th grade learned about rods and cones. They help you, it's what helps you see light. Those rods and cones can't regenerate. Once, if they die, they're just gone. And so the way that they protect themselves is the very ends of those cells, the things that actually receive the light, there's little discs. And every night when you sleep, those discs slough off, just like your skin cells slough off into the air. Those little discs slough off and they get replaced with new discs. And when you're a kid, like my 4.5-year-old grandson, every night when he sleeps, those little discs slough off, they get digested, and they're gone by morning. By the time you're 53, like me, some of those discs don't get dissolved because the processes in my body that break those things down, you just get some of them that are still laying around your retina, and that's fine until they get hit by 435 nanometer blue violet light. And then that transforms them into something that contains lipofuscin. And that lipofuscin is just a fatty substance that can eventually build up in your retina. And if you have macular degeneration, probably you've had that building up for some time now, and it's finally getting to levels that are concerning. So,
oh, Pete, do I have a surprise for you with one of the questions? So you can't peek at the Q&A thing because Virginia's my new best friend, and you'll see why in just a minute. But let's get to another one first. I get this all the time, and here's the thing: I'm an optometrist. I do love ophthalmologists. Let me preface that we work well together. I love opticians as well. Pete's one of my favorite, in fact, and everyone should get together and play well in the sandbox. Sometimes ophthalmologists think that their knowledge is vast and they're the all-knowing, and that's not based on their degree, it's based on the person. There's a question here that says, my mother's old ophthalmologist told her to stop wearing transition lenses in her glasses. Is this a new idea? He told her that 4 years ago. Makes absolutely no sense to me. They don't understand optics, and they're gonna argue with us that blue light causes macular degeneration. They're still gonna say it's UV because they don't want to learn the new stuff. And what they're going to tell you is, well, there's no animal model study, and Pete knows what path I'm going down right here. There's no animal model study that says blue light causes age-related macular degeneration. And I will also say that's correct, but there's also no human study that will tell us that cigarette smoking causes lung cancer. We just assume it because no one's going to sign up for that study to smoke 20,000 cigarettes a day and see if they get lung cancer. Just like I don't think any humans are going to let us shoot the back of their eye with blue light and see which retinas die fastest. We've been able to do that with pigs, and we prove without a doubt in pigs what band of wavelengths cause the most death. So I would say that ophthalmologist is inaccurate. I would tell your mom to get back in her transition lenses. They will do no harm. They will only do a benefit. The only thing that I could think of is if the ophthalmologist thought that your mom needed more light than what she was getting with transitions. But my defense with that would be light's what's causing the damage. So why, there's got to be a good balance there. I'm going to go in another one real quick. Computer glasses, computer glasses, once again, the more the blue light is going to be causing damage outdoors. I mean, so computer glasses are great for someone with macular degeneration because, as Pete said, even the best progressive lens out there may not give you the widest field of view. So I think computer glasses are great. Working with your doctor to see what distance you need and doing a single vision pair that makes the computer as big as you possibly can is going to be a benefit for someone with macular degeneration. Do you need blue light filtering on there? Honestly, probably not. I would tend more towards, if you're going to do that, do it outside. Susan came back. I love Susan as a patient. She takes ARADs twice a day. No red meat. I eat only white meat. I drink no milk. Love fish. I kind of want to hang out with you, Susan. I'm not going to lie. That sounds good. Genetic testing. Woohoo! This is a fun one. Love genetic testing. Came out a few years ago, and we've been all over the place on genetic testing. Some of the first versions were not very repeatable, which means you would come into my office and I would test you, and I would have a very grim conversation about your future. And then I would bring you back because due diligence and test you again in 4 months, and it magically changed. So I think it's getting better with time. I think it's something to know, but use all of these pieces of the puzzle and put it together what your risk is. This one says I shouldn't take zinc. I shouldn't take zinc due to my genetic makeup. I can wrap my head around that one. Zinc is a tricky little booger, and there's a lot of things with zinc based on smoking and genetic testing. There's other things out there besides zinc that do as good of job in the studies that are out there. So if your genetic test says don't take zinc because you can counteract that with lutein, zeaxanthine, and probably do a better job. Zinc is one of those weird things. It's like a cure-all for everything. You have a cold, take zinc. You get the flu, take zinc. Even when COVID came out, people were like, take zinc. I'm like, God dang, Zinc can't be that good. And it's popped up in macular degeneration as well. But, you know, I would say on that genetic test, if you can afford to, because I know they're not cheap, take it a few times and see if it's consistent. That's my only gripe right now, is your genetics can't change. All right, so the test should be the same, and a lot of times that they're not. Do vitamins prevent AMD? The answer to that should be yes, but it's no, because no one has been able to prove that. The only thing that they've proven over time, over a 5-year period, you've got a 25% retinal protection factor built in if you take an AREDS2 formulation. They haven't done any studies to know if it prevents it yet. But what I told my patients, if you have a strong genetic history of macular degeneration, I would consider taking some vitamins and start thinking about blue light protection as well. Not that you have to go all in, because it doesn't, just as mom and dad have it, does not mean that you're going to have it, but you're genetically predisposed to that. And it's something to start thinking about. Vitamins taken in normal quantities do no harm, and it's only going to be a benefit because we don't eat enough. I have one more to get to your favorite question, Pete, and Virginia. Like, if I could send you a present, I would. But hello, this is before it. I have transition glasses. They turn dark outside, but the sun and snow is blinding. I have dry macular degeneration. So what is the best choice? This is a great question, and I'm going to sound like a commercial. There is a product out there now called Transitions Extra Active Polarized that is going to be your godsend. Because there's true, when you're dealing with reflected light, snow blinding and things like that, that's a different beast than just light outdoors. The only way to deal with that is polarization. And Transitions has a product called Transitions Extra Active Polarized that will do that. The other option is just to get a pair of prescription polarized sunglasses, and that will help you when you're outdoors, because what you're experiencing with your regular transition glasses is you're not cutting out that reflected light. You're reducing it, but you're not filtering out. That's why you're still having problem with snow blindness and things like that. So polarization, but Transition makes a product here. Pete, are you ready for this one?
Yep. I just want to point out, though, the Transitions Extra Active Polarized just came on the market about a month ago. In fact, our particular company doesn't stock the product yet, but you can get it. The optician may not know about it, but make them research it, and their lab can probably provide it for you. And I have a strong suspicion that I know what Virginia asked about.
She sure did. So the funny thing is, that's why Pete and I like to lecture together, because I forget about those details. I get so excited about the products. Yeah, and then I'm gonna, Michelle, real quick, I'm gonna, because I kind of, this could be our parting shot with Pete here, and he's gonna take us out with a bang. But you asked if you can overdose on a supplement. Yeah, you definitely can. Especially supplements that are fat soluble, those can build up and cause toxic effects. Because remember, your body's dealing with this stuff. Your liver, your kidney are processing these, and they can be to a level. So make sure you're taking, more is not necessarily better here. There's doses on there for a reason. Talk to your healthcare provider to get the right one. Virginia, the question of the day so far, if there's an award, because Pete gets excited. I have had cataract surgery. Congratulations, you and a bunch of other Americans. Are there lenses that block blue light? Pete, take it away.
Okay, so as Dr. Parker knows, this is a very big soapbox for me. Cataract surgery is the #1 most common medical procedure done in the United States. 3.6 million eyes are operated on every single year. Here's the deal. Your eye has we've been talking about harmful blue light here now for an hour. Your eye has 2 methods of protecting itself against harmful blue light. The first one is you have this filter in your retina called pigment that's actually yellow. It actually reduces the amount of blue light that gets to your retina. But the other thing that happens is, as we age, I mentioned that as you get older, less light makes it to your retina. That's because your crystalline lens. So what is your crystalline lens? It's right behind your pupil and your iris. It's the thing that gets the cataract in it. It's what allows you to see up close. And your crystalline lens, when you're born, is water clear. I mean, you can't even see it on a white piece of paper. It's so clear. But as you age, it begins to get yellowish. And specifically, it reduces the amount of yellow or blue light that gets through the lens to your retina. Here's the problem, and this is the thing that it kills me. In over half of those 3.6 million surgeries that are done each year to remove cataracts, the lens that the ophthalmologist will put back in your eye is crystal clear. It's clearer than the one that you were born with, and it allows all of the harmful blue light to go straight through the lens. Now, here's the problem. You're probably 55 years old or so whenever you've had cataract surgery, and your retina is no longer really great at dealing with the oxidative effects of harmful blue light. But what we've just done is we've taken out that lens that was blocking all of that harmful blue light, or a lot of it, and we've put in a lens that just allows the retina to just get inundated. Now, there has been at least one study performed where here's what they did. They took about 200 eyes. Right before they got cataract surgery, they looked at their retinas to see how healthy the retina was. All of them were perfectly healthy. Half of the eyes received an intraocular lens. That's what they call the thing that they put in your lens during cataract surgery. Half of them got one that blocks blue light, kind of like your normal lens would when you're a little bit older. And then the other half of the people got a perfectly clear intraocular lens, like the one that most ophthalmologists use. 2 years later, they take a look at the retina. And what they discovered was the people that got the IOL that blocked blue light, their retinas looked the same way that they did 2 years ago. But a significant percentage of the people that got the clear IOLs, the ones that don't block blue light, they already had the beginnings of macular degeneration in their eyes. What does that tell you? It tells you something that's common sense. You can't take an older person and suddenly just inundate their eye with harmful blue light, because it will cause oxidation that you don't want. And so here's my thing. At the end of the day, if you've had cataract surgery, that's awesome. I'm sure you're enjoying all the colors and everything that you can see again. But particularly if you've got a relative or you have had cataract surgery, you have to wear dark lenses anytime you're outside in the sun, because what's happened is one of the very significant ways that your eye protects itself has been removed during your cataract surgery. So you need to replace that with something like a photochromic lens, light transitions, or a sunglass lens. So yes, if you've had cataract surgery, and we were giving this talk one time, and an OD, an optometrist, left the room while we were presenting, and I thought, wow, I must have pissed him off. And he came back in at the very end, and he walked up to the podium afterwards, and he goes, hey, when you mentioned that thing about cataract surgery, I had cataract surgery last year. I honestly did not know what kind of IOL was placed in my eye. So I went out and called my ophthalmologist, and it turns out I have a clear IOL. I need to start wearing sunglasses more often. So yes, if you've had cataract surgery, that will have an impact on how much blue light your retina is receiving. And especially if you've had cataract surgery, wear dark lenses when you go outside. Okay, hopping off the soapbox.
That was good. I like
it.
it.
But thank you for the question.
Yeah, and so Virginia, you may be wondering, can I find out? The answer is yes, you can find out. You can call your ophthalmologist and ask, and it may take them a little bit to figure out, and don't be put off if they say, no, we put a clear one in, why would you care? Like I said, they're kind of set in their ways. So if you have a clear one, don't freak out. You can mitigate that by just making sure that what we've talked about today with your blue light protection and things with your outdoors. And in my practice, my ophthalmologist was awesome. We had a very open conversation about this, and I just said, for all of my patients, I want you to use a blue light filtering lens. Didn't cost him anything, wasn't anything different, and he's like, I'm perfectly fine with that. I was that passionate about it when I was in practice, and it's just a conversation that can be had with the ophthalmologist. Let's see. All right, Susan, wear yellow lens sunglasses over my prescription sun because I see better than with regular sun, which cut out too much of the light. Trouble seeing the light. Yeah, yellow lenses are great. I mean, they're great here. Yellow filters out blue, which is wonderful. And what you're doing is you're cutting down a lot of the glare by doing that as well. And that makes perfectly good sense. So I would just say, definitely keep doing what you're doing. And the next question came up, if you were given a clear lens during cataract surgery, can the surgery be redone? But they'll never do it. On a healthy retina, they'll never redo one because there's a ton of risk with cataract surgery. They've gotten so good at it though, that not a lot happens. But anytime you open up the eye, there's potential for really bad stuff to happen, and they'll open it up once, but they they won't open it up again. In fact, I can remember when I was doing a lot of practice, and I had some patients that had some not great results on the premium lenses back when they just started, the ones that do distance and near vision, and the patients really wanted to take them out, and the surgeons would not take them back out for just medical legal reasons. So they definitely would, if they wouldn't do it for that, they're not going to do it to put a clear lens in there. They're just, or blue light filter. They're just going to say, don't listen to your optometrist. They don't know what they're talking about when it comes to blue light. As the reaction,
stick to your guns. When my mom had cataract surgery, I had her ask her ophthalmologist, not the actually same one that she just went to, but another one, what kind of intraocular lens are you going to put in my eye, clear or blue blocking? And his exact answer to her is, why would you care? So stick to your guns. Your ophthalmologist may even point to a very large study that was recently done that showed that it doesn't matter what kind of IOL you get, it doesn't cause macular degeneration. But whenever we looked into that, it turned out they were talking about wet macular degeneration, and dry and wet are two different types, and wet is usually what happens at the very end stage. So it just, stick to your guns. You don't want to expose your eyes to harmful blue light, and a clear IOL is a great way to do that, which is not good. So
yeah, the another question is, what is the name? There's really no name. There's not one brand that does it better than other in the world of intraocular lenses. They all block ultraviolet radiation that I know of, but there are also ones that block ultraviolet and blue light. There's many different brands that do that. I have a filter on my computer screen. The way I get relief from eye strain is wearing sunglasses over them. This works for webinar, et cetera, but not text typing. I've been given a prescription for computer glasses. Yes, they will definitely help you out when it comes to eye strain, because they're going to get your exact prescription on the computer, which is going to be really, really beneficial for you when it comes to making sure that you've got the right correction, the right working distance, and all those things. So I think that'll be a good thing.
Really quickly, if you're using a computer and your retina has, you have some issues and you have a little bit of trouble reading, one of the things that you can do, if you can tinker around with your computer, if you can make your screen background be black, let's say you're trying to read an email, make the background of the screen black and make the text color yellow, not white. And the reason is yellow is a monochromatic color, so your eye's not gonna cause some haze, whereas white contains all of the colors. And as Dr. Parker mentioned, blue light, besides not being healthy for your retina, it also scatters very easily. And that's the reason why if you wear a yellow lens, you may see a little bit sharper, because you're taking out the light. The reason that the sky is blue is because air scatters blue light more than any other color. Same thing happens in your eye. So if you have a yellow font on a black background, that's the combination of colors that should be the easiest for you to see clearly.
All right, I think we've hit the end of our questions. And because of those great questions, we not only went through all of our normal presentation, but we even added some stuff in there. You got some bonus sections today. But I appreciate the questions and the engagement. I know I had a blast. These kind of things are so enjoyable and so different for Pete and I. But I just appreciate the questions, and I wish you all much success. I think the more knowledge is power, and I think the more information you have, the better chances you'll have of maximizing your vision and hopefully not losing any as time goes on.
Well, thank you, Dr. Parker and Pete. We want to let you know we were fantastic information, very helpful, and it should help these people be able to pick out the right glasses that will be helpful and beneficial for them.